I was going to propose that day. The ring sat in my jacket pocket, a diamond I had saved 8 months to afford. My mom's birthday party seemed like the perfect moment, surrounded by family, surrounded by love. Megan had been my everything for 2.5 years. I trusted her completely. But that Sunday afternoon in Phoenix, she demanded my phone password in front of everyone. She said if I had nothing to hide, I should open it. So I did. Then I asked for hers. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to know where you are watching from today. Drop your city in the comments below. If you have ever trusted someone who did not deserve it, hit that subscribe button right now. And stick around, because what Megan did next still makes my blood boil every time I think about it. I almost married this woman. Let me take you back to the beginning so you understand just how blind I really was. I met Megan at a coffee shop near my office in Scottsdale about 3 years ago. I am a software engineer, and I had stopped in for my usual afternoon caffeine fix when I noticed her sitting by the window reading a book I happened to love. It was a worn copy of East of Eden, pages dog-eared and spine-cracked from multiple readings. I took a chance and asked her about it. She looked up at me with these warm brown eyes, smiled, and we ended up talking for almost 2 hours. She told me she worked in marketing for a commercial real estate company downtown. She was smart, funny, and genuinely interested in what I had to say. By the time we exchanged numbers, I already knew I wanted to see her again. The first year with Megan felt like something out of a movie. She was thoughtful in ways that caught me off guard. When I worked late on coding projects, she would show up at my apartment with homemade pasta and a bottle of wine. She remembered the little things, like how I take my coffee with exactly 2 sugars, or how I always wanted to visit Sedona, but never made the time. For my birthday that first year, she surprised me with a weekend trip there. We hiked through the Red Rocks, watched the sunset from Cathedral Rock, and I remember thinking I had finally found someone who understood me. I introduced her to my family about 6 months in. My parents live in a quiet suburb outside Phoenix, a modest 1-story house with a big backyard where my dad loves to grill. My mom, Donna, took to Megan immediately. She started inviting her to Sunday dinners, teaching her family recipes, treating her like the daughter she never had. My younger sister, Harper, was more cautious at first, but even she warmed up eventually. By the end of that first year, Megan was part of the family. After 2 years together, I knew I wanted to spend my life with her. I started saving for a ring, setting aside a little from each paycheck. It took me 8 months, but I finally bought a beautiful diamond solitaire from a jeweler my dad recommended. I kept it hidden in my sock drawer, waiting for the perfect moment. My mom's 65th birthday was coming up, and I thought, what better way to celebrate than to propose in front of everyone who mattered. I wanted my mom to witness the moment. I wanted Megan to know that she was not just marrying me, but joining my family forever. But looking back now, I can see the signs I chose to ignore. About 4 months before the party, I noticed Megan had started placing her phone face down on every surface. She never used to do that. When I mentioned it casually, she laughed and said it was just a new habit, nothing to worry about. I believed her because I had no reason not to. Then came the late nights. Megan started working overtime more frequently, sometimes not getting home until 9 or 10 at night. She said there was a big project with a new client, something that demanded extra hours. I was actually proud of her dedication. I even tried to surprise her once by bringing dinner to her office. But when I got there, the security guard told me she had left around 6. When I asked her about it later, she said she must have gone to grab coffee with a colleague and lost track of time. I let it go. Around the same time, a name started appearing in our conversations more and more. Derek. Derek from the office. Derek, who always had great ideas in meetings. Derek, who brought everyone coffee in the morning because he was just so thoughtful. I did not think much of it. I was not the jealous type, and I trusted Megan completely. She was allowed to have friends at work, even male friends. I told myself there was nothing to worry about. I also noticed she had started going to the gym more often. She bought new clothes, started wearing makeup, even on days when she was just running errands. I complimented her, told her she looked amazing. I thought she was just taking better care of herself. I did not realize she was taking care of herself for someone else. 2 weeks before my mom's birthday party, I got a phone call from Travis. Travis has been my best friend since our freshman year at Arizona State, and he works at a company not far from Megan's office. He sounded hesitant when I picked up, like he did not want to say what he was about to say. He told me he saw Megan at lunch the day before at an Italian restaurant on 5th Street. She was with some guy sitting close together, and the guy had his hand on her arm. Travis said it looked intimate, not like a business meeting. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach, but I pushed the feeling down. I told myself Travis must have misunderstood. Maybe it was a client lunch. Maybe the guy was just friendly. That night I asked Megan about it, casually mentioned that Travis thought he saw her at the Italian place. She did not even flinch. She said yes, that was Derek. They had a client lunch together. She laughed, kissed me on the cheek, told me I was adorable when I was worried about nothing. And just like that, I believed her. But somewhere deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted. I just was not ready to let it grow. I pushed those thoughts aside and focused on the proposal. I practiced my speech in the mirror. I imagined the look on Megan's face when I got down on one knee. I pictured my mom crying happy tears. I convinced myself that everything was fine, that I was just being paranoid. I had no idea how wrong I was. The day of my mom's birthday arrived with perfect Arizona weather. Clear blue sky, about 85 degrees, the kind of Sunday afternoon that makes you grateful to live in the Southwest. I drove to my parents' house early to help set up. My dad, Frank, was already in the backyard manning the grill, the smell of mesquite smoke and marinated chicken filling the air. My mom bustled around the patio table, arranging flowers and setting out plates. Harper arrived with her husband and their 3-year-old daughter, who immediately ran to me for a hug. I had the ring in my jacket pocket. Every few minutes, I would pat my chest just to make sure it was still there. I had rehearsed my speech 100 times. After Mom blew out her candles, I would ask everyone to stay seated. I would talk about how much family meant to me, how Megan had become part of that family, and then I would get down on one knee and ask her to spend the rest of her life with me. It was going to be perfect. Megan arrived around 2 in the afternoon. She looked beautiful in a floral sundress, her hair curled softly around her shoulders. She hugged my mom, handed her a wrapped gift, and complimented the decorations. Watching her interact with my family, I felt a surge of love and certainty. This was the woman I wanted to marry. This was my future. For the first hour, everything went smoothly. We ate barbecue, laughed at my dad's terrible jokes, watched my niece chase butterflies around the yard. I caught Megan's eye across the table a few times, and she smiled at me in a way that made my heart swell. I thought about the ring in my pocket and felt like the luckiest man alive. Then everything fell apart. I had stepped away to help my dad flip some burgers on the grill, leaving my phone on the table inside the house. I did not think anything of it. I had nothing to hide. But when Megan went inside to get a drink, she saw my phone light up with a text message. The preview showed it was from Travis, and it said something along the lines of, "Did you ask her about the Italian place yet?" Megan came storming out to the backyard, her face twisted with anger. She demanded to know who was texting me and what Italian place Travis was talking about. I tried to explain calmly. I told her Travis had seen her at lunch with Derek a couple weeks ago and had asked me about it. I said I had already talked to her about it and everything was fine. But Megan was not satisfied. Her voice got louder, loud enough that my parents and Harper stopped what they were doing to watch. She accused me of having my friends spy on her. She said I clearly did not trust her if I was gossiping about her behind her back. Then she made her demand. "Give me your phone password," she said. "Right now. If you have nothing to hide, open it. Let me see everything." I stood there in shock. My entire family was watching. My niece had stopped playing and was staring at us with wide, confused eyes. Harper quickly took her inside, but everyone else remained frozen, witnessing this scene unfold. I did not want to make things worse, so I handed over my phone. I told her the password was 0715, the numbers of my birthday. She already knew it. She had seen me type it 100 times. But she wanted to make a point, wanted to humiliate me in front of my family. Megan spent the next several minutes going through everything. My text messages, my emails, my photos, my social media accounts, my search history. She found nothing because there was nothing to find. I had never cheated, never even thought about it. My phone was boring, filled with work emails and fantasy football updates and texts to Travis about basketball games. My mom finally stepped forward, her voice gentle but concerned. She asked Megan what was going on, why she was doing this. Megan looked up from my phone and said she was just making sure her son was not cheating on her. The words hung in the air like poison. My mother's face fell. My father shook his head slowly. When Megan finally handed my phone back, having found nothing incriminating, I felt something shift inside me. I looked at this woman I had loved for 2.5 years. This woman I was planning to propose to, and I made a decision. I asked for her phone password. Megan's expression changed instantly. The anger drained from her face, replaced by something I had never seen before. Fear. She tried to laugh it off. She said that was different, that she did not have anything to hide, but she also did not need to prove herself. I pointed out that she had just made me open my phone in front of my entire family, that she had accused me of being untrustworthy, and that the same rules should apply to both of us. The backyard went silent. My dad put down his grilling tongs. My mom stood frozen by the table. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. Megan clutched her phone tighter and refused. She said I was being ridiculous, that I was trying to turn the tables because I got caught. But caught doing what I had nothing on my phone. Nothing at all. That was when I knew for certain. The way she held that phone like her life depended on it. The panic in her eyes. The desperate excuses spilling from her lips. She was hiding something. Something big. I remembered that my dad's Bluetooth speaker was still connected from earlier, when we had been playing music. I also remembered that Megan used voice memos constantly. She was always recording notes to herself, reminders for work, random thoughts she wanted to remember later. And I knew her password because I had watched her type it countless times. It was her birthday, just like mine was my birthday. Before she could react, I reached over and took her phone from her hands. She screamed at me to give it back, lunged for it, but I had already connected to the Bluetooth speaker. I opened her voice memos app and saw dozens of recordings. Some were labeled with mundane things like grocery list or meeting notes, but others had different names. Derek. After work. Feelings. Megan's voice went from angry to pleading in an instant. She begged me to stop, said I was invading her privacy, that I had no right to do this. But I had every right. She had just spent 10 minutes invading my privacy in front of everyone I loved. She had humiliated me based on nothing but her own paranoia. Now it was time for the truth. I pressed play. Megan's voice came through the speaker, clear and unmistakable. She was talking about Derek, about how he made her feel things I never did, about how exciting it was to have someone pursue her again. Another recording played automatically. In this one, she talked about how Derek had kissed her in the parking lot after work, and how she had not stopped him because she did not want to. Then another. She said she thought she was falling for him, but that I was safe and stable, and maybe she could have both. My mother gasped and covered her mouth with her hand. My father looked at Megan with an expression of pure disgust. When Harper came back outside to see what was happening, she took one look at Megan and shook her head slowly. Megan started crying, saying it was not what it sounded like, that those were just private thoughts, that nothing serious had happened. But her own words had already condemned her. She had kissed another man. She was in love with another man. And she had been planning to keep me around as her backup plan. I stood there holding her phone, my hands shaking. I thought about the ring still sitting in my jacket pocket. I thought about the speech I had prepared, the future I had imagined. I almost gave everything to a woman who was giving herself to someone else. For a long moment, nobody moved. Megan stood in the middle of my parents' backyard, mascara running down her cheeks, desperately trying to explain away what we had all just heard. She cycled through excuses so fast I could barely keep up. It was just a crush. It did not mean anything. Nothing physical happened. I pointed out that her own voice recording said Derek had kissed her in the parking lot. She changed tactics immediately. Then she started blaming me. She said maybe if I paid more attention to her, she would not have needed to feel wanted by someone else. She said I was always working, always buried in my coding projects, always too tired to go out or do anything exciting. She said this was my fault too. My mother stepped forward, and I had never heard her voice so cold. She told Megan not to dare blame her son for Megan's choices. My father said he thought it was time for Megan to leave. Harper just stared at her with unconcealed contempt. Megan turned back to me, suddenly soft and pleading. She said we could work through this, that couples go through rough patches all the time, that what we had was worth fighting for. She reached for my hand. I pulled away. I took a deep breath and said what I needed to say. I told her she had stood there in front of my parents and my sister and accused me of cheating. She had humiliated me. She had demanded my password like I was some kind of criminal. And the whole time she was the one sneaking around. She was the one recording love notes about another man on her phone. Then I walked into the house. I went to where my jacket was hanging by the door and pulled out the ring box. When I came back outside, I opened it and held it up so everyone could see. I told her I was going to propose that day. Right there in front of everyone. I had saved for 8 months. I had planned every word. I thought she was my future. Megan broke down completely. She sobbed and said my name over and over, begging me not to do this. But I was done. I told her I could finally see who she really was. Not the woman I fell in love with. The real her. Someone who lies. Someone who cheats. Someone who blames everyone else for her own choices. I told her I was done. I put the ring back in my pocket. I said I would return it the next day and that I would have my stuff out of our apartment by the end of the week. Megan made one last attempt. She said I was making a mistake and that I would regret this. She said no one would ever love me like she did. I actually laughed. Not a bitter laugh, but something lighter, like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I told her that was exactly the point. I did not want anyone to love me the way she did. She looked around the yard, searching for an ally, someone who might take her side. There was no one. My mother had turned her back. My father was staring at the grill, refusing to acknowledge her. Harper had gone back inside with her daughter. Megan grabbed her purse and walked out the front door. Nobody said goodbye, After she left, my mom came over and wrapped her arms around me. She did not say anything at first, just held me while I processed what had just happened. My dad came up and put his hand on my shoulder, told me I did the right thing. Harper came back outside and said she was proud of me, that she had always sensed something off about Megan, but had not wanted to say anything. We did not continue with the birthday celebration that day. Instead, we sat around the patio table and talked. My family let me vent, let me process, let me feel whatever I needed to feel. By the time I drove home that night, I felt something unexpected. Relief. The following week was brutal but necessary. I packed up my belongings from the apartment Megan and I had shared. She kept texting me, calling me, leaving voicemails, begging for another chance. I blocked her number. She showed up at my office one day, and security had to escort her out. She even tried reaching out to Harper and my mom, but they both shut her down immediately. A few weeks later, Travis told me something that confirmed everything. Megan and Derek had made their relationship official almost immediately after we broke up. They were posting couple photos on social media, going on trips together, acting like they had been together for months. Because they probably had been. The whole relationship with me had been a lie. Or at least the last several months of it had been. She had been building something with Derek while keeping me around as a safety net. If things did not work out with him, she still had the stable, reliable boyfriend waiting at home. I was her backup plan. I returned the ring and got most of my money back. I used it for a deposit on a new apartment, a smaller place, but one that was entirely my own. The first night I spent there, I sat on my bare living room floor with a pizza and a beer, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The first few weeks after everything fell apart were harder than I expected. Even when you know you made the right decision, that does not make the pain disappear. I had spent 2.5 years building a life with Megan, imagining a future that would never exist. Some nights I could not sleep. I would lie awake wondering what I had done wrong, what I could have done differently, whether I had missed something obvious. But slowly, I started to find my footing again. My family became my anchor. My mom called me every single day, sometimes just to chat about nothing, sometimes to check in on how I was really doing. My dad started inviting me to go fishing on Saturday mornings, something we had not done since I was a teenager. Sitting in that boat with him watching the sun rise over the lake, I remembered what it felt like to be at peace. Harper made sure I did not isolate myself. She invited me over for dinner at least once a week, letting me play with my niece, reminding me that there was still joy in the world. Her husband became someone I could talk to, another guy who understood what it was like to navigate relationships and come out the other side. Travis was relentless in the best possible way. He refused to let me wallow. He dragged me out to Suns games, to happy hours, to weekend hikes in the mountains. One night after a few beers, he told me I had dodged a massive bullet. At the time, it felt like a cliché. Looking back, I know he was right. I started doing things I had put off for years. I began running every morning, something I had always wanted to do, but Megan had called boring. I signed up for a cooking class and learned to make dishes I actually enjoyed. I joined a hiking group and met people who shared my interests. I read books I had been meaning to read. I rediscovered parts of myself that had gotten lost somewhere along the way. At work, something shifted too. A senior position opened up, one I had wanted for a long time, but had never pursued because Megan always complained I worked too much. Without that voice in my head holding me back, I applied. I got the promotion. It came with more responsibility, but also more fulfillment. 6 months after that Sunday at my parents' house, I barely recognized my own life. I was healthier, happier, more connected to the people who actually cared about me. The anger I had felt toward Megan had faded into something closer to indifference. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she and Derek had broken up after a few months. Apparently, he was not as serious about her as she thought. I did not feel satisfaction when I heard that. I did not feel anything at all. Her story was no longer my story, and that felt like freedom. Looking back now, I have learned some things I want to share with you. First, trust your instincts. I saw the signs. The phone always face down. The late nights that did not add up. The name that kept appearing in conversation. Deep down, I knew something was wrong, but I chose to ignore it because I did not want it to be true. Your gut knows things before your heart is ready to accept them. Listen to it. Second, walking away is not the same as giving up. When Megan begged me to work through it, part of me wanted to try. 2.5 years is a long time. But some things cannot be fixed. Some betrayals cannot be forgiven. Choosing yourself is not weakness. Sometimes it is the bravest thing you can do. Third, real love does not make you feel like you are competing for attention. Real love does not have a backup plan. Real love does not record voice memos about someone else while you are planning a future together. If you are watching this and you are in a relationship where you feel like you are not enough, maybe you are not the problem. Maybe you are just with the wrong person. And maybe the best thing that can happen to you is not getting what you wanted. I walked into that party ready to give her my future. I walked out with something better, my self-respect. And honestly, that is worth more than any ring. So here is my question for you. Have you ever trusted someone who ended up betraying that trust? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and sometimes just knowing you are not alone makes all the difference. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button so more people can see it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories like this one, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of this community. Whatever you are going through right now, I hope you find the strength to choose yourself. You deserve it. I will see you in the next one.